2 years ago, I made a video outlining Ava Max's rough journey towards her second album, Diamonds and Dancefloors. We are now in 2025, and things have somehow gotten worse for the pop starlet. In the last 2 years, she has been plagued by viral accusations of lazy sampling, losing her longtime producer in a feud, and a now cancelled tour for an album that she ghosted mid-promo cycle. Things got so bad that Rolling Stone covered her disappearance. Don't Click Play marks Ava Max's third album under Atlantic Records and hopefully her last record with them. In this video, I'll discuss what happened and give my honest thoughts on the record before going track by track and assigning a score. Before I start, I am not an Ava Max hater. If anything, I think she has an amazing voice and I'm extremely sympathetic to her mismanagement situation. The disaster continues. Diamonds and Dancefloors released in 2023 and despite its leaks managed to score favorable reviews and marked an improvement over Heaven and Hell. Ava even supported that album by going on her first headlining tour. Unfortunately, Max found herself assaulted when a man jumped on stage and slapped her during a performance of The Motto in LA. This truly unacceptable incident happened days after fellow Albanian pop star Bibi Rexha had a phone thrown at her during a New York concert. On a more positive note, Max was actually featured on the hit soundtrack for the movie Barbie, with her song Choose Your Fighter even making it into a now iconic scene where Barbie and Ken get into trouble in the human world. The song was a moderate hit in Europe and marked her final collaboration with longtime producer and ex-boyfriend Circuit, as well as former songwriter and friend Madison Love. We'll talk about that later. 2024 marked a mini renaissance for the pop genre at large with many breakout successes, and Max seemed to be well positioned to capitalize. However, she faced a widespread negative feedback after her collaboration with Kygo Whatever dropped. The song sampled the iconic Whenever, Wherever by Shakira, but was called Lazy and uninspired in a series of viral tweets pointing out Max's reputation then as the sample's pop girl. To make things worse, the song did hit the top of the bubbling under charts and not much higher than that. In April, Ava released My Oh My, a standalone single that was meant to start a new era. The song was a very charming dance track that integrated the Arabian riff into its chorus, but it failed to make a dent chart-wise. Another single, Spot a Fake, dropped in September of that year, calling attention to a rumored feud with her former songwriter Madison Love, who allegedly is dating her former producer, Circuit. Ironically enough, Circuit went on to work on Lady Gaga's Mayhem. Lady Gaga was someone that Max was compared to a lot in her earlier years, which makes this really ironic and tragic. On the other hand, Madison Love was instrumental to Ava's earlier success, co-writing her breakout smash hit Sweet But Psycho and writing much of Diamonds and Dancefloors. Avatars noticed that Max unfollowed Madison back in 2023, while Circuit eventually unfollowed Max. The lyrics in Spot a Fake seemingly confirmed this story. The song unfortunately did not gain any attention. To make things worse, around that time, many speculated that she was a victim of her label going through a restructure at the time, with Warner Music laying off a lot of people. Max would confirm this later in a very telling Rolling Stone interview. 2024 wasn't all that bad. Max found some success with a collaboration with David Guetta and Alphaville on Forever Young, a dance pop rework of the old classic hit. It actually hit 90 on the Hot 100, her first entry on the chart since The Motto in 2021, but it did not help the accusations of her lack of originality. In an interview at the very end of the year, Ava revealed that she scrapped the very first version of the upcoming album, Two People, alongside the singles that she released so far. 2025 was a mess. For one, she dropped a pop rock lead single, Lost Your Faith. The track was a 1980s influenced track that felt like a departure from her usual fare, but it did not chart. A viral tweet actually noted that she was an Al Kia Traz. In April, Max teased the album using a Don't Click Play on Ava Max website, and then she formally announced the album by quote retweeting Ed Sheeran's upcoming Play Records announcement. The second single, Loving Myself, dropped in May. It was more of a poppy electro dance track about self-love and growth, which, lines up with what she normally releases. The music video marked a return to her signature Max cut, but the song sadly flopped. A final single, Wet Hot American Dream, dropped in July ahead of her Macy's 4th of July fireworks performance, a performance that Max would later recall as uncomfortable and the prelude to her leaving her management. Max then completely disappeared, with some wondering where she was with an album dropping so soon. One final mishap occurred when the album leaked in full just days before its release, with a lyric from the title track mentioning her constant comparisons to Gaga going viral. On the night of the album's release, Max candidly revealed why she left and discussed her plights in a bombshell Rolling Stone interview. She noted her disappearance was unplanned and a very hard time for her. Which brings me to my general thoughts. With all of that drama out of the way, I finally listened to the album myself, and I did find it pretty solid. Max stated in an interview that her goal with this album was to show that she could move past her previous collaborators and make an Ava Max record by herself. Something that she does accomplish, but I'm still unsure what that means. If an Ava Max album is a grab bag of potential dance pop hits, sure, and at this point, with how bad pop has been, more than happy to take it. Production-wise, Pink Slip and Inverness proved to be a solid tune for her. Lyrically, the album skews towards discussing her recovery process post a breakup. I found the scathing and telling songs more compelling over the generic kind of fluffy self-empowerment anthems. Personally, I thought that she could have included My Oh My and Spot a Fake. I feel like they fit the record thematically, and it honestly wouldn't hurt to include them to boost the streams. One of my earlier criticisms of Max was her lack of personality, something that this album does a little improvement on. I felt like the vocals on these tracks were pretty excellent. Per usual, she has a pretty good ear for melodies, and one thing that stuck out to me was that there was no samples on this record. Lyrically, with the context of what she's been through, this is probably her strongest album on that front. There's clarity and emotion behind each betrayal track. My initial standouts were Don't Click Play, Sucks to Be My Ex, World's Smallest Violin. Those were the clear standouts. I'm shocked that not one of these tracks were chosen as any of the singles. I think her team earlier was just sabotaging her because Wet Hot American Dream had no business being a single, let alone included on this album. It's no surprise that this album is not cohesive. Granted, it's very tough behind-the-scenes development. It is nowhere as polished as Diamonds and Dancefloors, which I still consider to be her strongest record to date, but it does have less skips and less groan-worthy tracks than, say, Heaven and Hell. The absence of circuit is felt in some places, but Max branching out and varying her song structures and inching away from formulaic sounds is pretty good. I do think with some stable management and hopefully a new label that actually cares about her, Max can find a way to a more Carly Rae Jepsen-esque cult following situation. Her new management actually manages Carly. Don't Click Play isn't a disaster by any means, but it feels like growing pains. I hope she recovers and gets to tour it eventually, but I'm glad that the era is just about done. Which brings us to the track by track. Title track is a good opener. It sets the tone pretty well. It's the type of dance pop track that evokes Cascada and the recession pop sound that she really does pretty well. The whispery delivery throughout, especially on the post-chorus, makes the track pop. Verse 2 calls out her sample Gaga imitation discourse, but it doesn't come off as cringy. It's kind of playful. Rather than do a bridge, she lets the beat do the talking towards the end with an extended dance breakdown, which I thought was a pretty nice touch. How Can I Dance is one of the empowerment anthems about breaking free from a relationship holding her back. I did not think it was about her romance with Circuit. I thought it was more about her management. I think she sounds pretty vocally strong on the O's, and there's a bit of a millennial whoop effect to them that makes it feel vintage. I really liked the chorus and post-chorus, but I felt like the verses were way too short, and it makes the song feel underbraked. Loving Myself wasn't my favorite when it dropped, but in the context of the album and her plight, I think it's a stronger track now. The song does feel like it would play in the back of an early 2000s rom-com like Legally Blonde. I felt like the pre-chorus was a little bit more hooky than the actual hook because of how dynamic it sounds. All My Exes, R.I.P., C'est La Vie. It has this really cool cadence to it and melody. Sucks to Be My Ex should have been the lead single or just the single that released with this record. I think it's the most developed song on here. The chorus is an earworm. It takes its time to really get stuck in your head. There's almost like a 3-act structure to it. The verses are all fleshed out. She's in her villain era. He's missing her. She's missing his calls. The pre-chorus is playful. The way that she changes it up on the I Feel Bad For You adds a little bit of bite to the song, and the bridge gives her a chance to flex her vocal range. I really love the stripped back chorus up until the final one. It's pretty well made for a pop song. Wet Hot American Dream is my solid chop. I do not like this track. The instrumental has potential, calling back to the 80s pretty perfectly. I like the progression in the pre-chorus and the chorus, but the concept never comes together. I'm not like other cowgirls is a great line, but in the context of the track, it's just not convincing. If you're gonna do a track that kind of panders towards this American revisionism or like nostalgia or whatever, I felt like this would have done better with a country tinge instrumental. There's such a disconnect between the lyrics and the sound that the song just does not work. Take My Call's melodically one of the best tracks. The intro establishes this killer catchy melody that lets her play with the instrumental. I felt like the verses were chatty and developed, where she sets up a story about a love where they're both really into it and it's undeniable. The pre-chorus evokes her dialing numbers on a phone, like the way she sings feels like pounding numbers into the phone, and then the chorus mimics her waiting on the phone, like a dial tone, waiting for someone to pick up. The bridge has a campy, sort of drag race sound to it. I dig the track. Know Somebody is the closest thing to a mid-tempo ballad on here. I think it's pretty punchy still. The song's about heartbreak and just feeling and recognizing that you just didn't really know your ex. So it's kind of like a sequel of sorts to Spot a Fake. Verse 2 is delivered so well, imagining him still picturing her when he's with his new girl or even in her dreams. I felt like the chorus's rhyming structure keeps you on your toes, and the ad-libs at the end do add some character. Lost Your Faith is a solid album track. It should have never been the lead single, even though it does touch on the heartbreak and crisis of faith themes pretty well. The rocky instrumental does add variety, but it does not really feel like it belongs on this record. A primary nitpick of mine on this is just how similar it sounds structurally to Kings and Queens. Maybe not necessarily the sound of it, but the way that it's structured down to the instrumental break, though I feel like it may have been intentional. Fight for Me felt like a filler track. It retreads some pretty similar ground where she's singing about a relationship that's on the edge of ending. The best part of it is the post-chorus and the bridge, but it really feels like a scrapped Tate McRae track, and seeing Ryan Tedder on the writing credits confirms that to me. Skin in the Game is an okay mid-tempo track where she sings about a relationship that's stringing her along. I felt like the progression into the chorus and the post-chorus had some variance to it. I just wish that the song went somewhere. Only on the outro does she get to belt, and then the song just ends as it gets momentum. World's Smallest Violin is a standout smash. I think the violin kicking in at the start gives it a dash of class. I really love the pre-chorus name dropping What Would Jesus Do as it builds up and then explodes on the chorus. I think Ava's her best when she manages to find a way to hook onto the flow of a song. She seamlessly floats on the track, owning the production. It is a bit short, but every second feels like it's earned. It almost reminded me of Greedy in the sense that the song itself is short, but it also like just feels fulfilled. Catch My Breath is a great closer track. It sort of reminded me way too much of Marina's Final Boss. There were moments where I almost started singing the Marina track over it. It's just a really funny coincidence that they both came towards the same sort of like track. I don't think that it's sampling or plagiarism, but I do think that's kind of funny. I just started thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Guess I beat you at your own game. Like when she does that little part about Hollywood. I still enjoy the track. I think it's a solid closer, but eh. Overall, this album is not the train wreck that a lot of people are going to say it is, but it's also not an album that I see myself or other people really coming back to. I did have fun listening to it, and in times like these, I think we do need some lighthearted pop here and there. I'm giving it a 6.7 out of 10, and I'm wishing Ava all the best. Please leave Atlantic. They're a terrible record label for you. And that's a wrap. Like, I did not expect to make a sequel to The Tragedy of Ava Max. Honestly, I don't think she deserves any of what's happening to her. The happy thing is that she found new management, so let me know in the comments below what you think about this whole situation, what you thought about the album in whole, like, if you're rooting for Ava, like, favorite tracks. I want to give a quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for taking that extra step of joining my channel and supporting me. I also want to thank my subscribers. I do this for you guys. I love reviewing albums every week for you or whenever I have time. I can't wait to talk about Sabrina next week. And I hope to see you guys next video.